I can hear it. Okay. I started a few minutes early, so not sure if that's gonna make a difference. But yeah, what's up, everybody? Uh, I know I'm streaming later than normal. My apologies. I don't know. Today was just a weird day. Today was one of those days where not that I didn't do much. Like I got a lot of stuff done, but I was just tired the whole day and trying to get myself motivated to do things was difficult today. So yeah. I don't know. I think I have to come up with a better sleeping schedule. I think I have to start eating at a more reasonable time. Um, I don't know. I'm just doing a lot of things wrong that are making things difficult for me for absolutely no reason. And it's frustrating when you know what to do, but you just don't do it. Um, but yeah, we'll get into some videos. I'm only gonna be able to stream for like an hour tonight. I still gotta go do laundry and stuff, so fortunately. But tomorrow I will be able to stream sometime around 2. I'll probably stream for like an hour or two, and then I might even do another stream later because I got a lot of time. But we'll see how much work I get done, how many responsibilities I take care of. Like the unfortunate thing about this is I don't have endless time to kill. I wish I did. We would do 10-hour streams, but it's on the cards right now. So maybe soon, maybe soon. But yeah, let me just find this tab. Okay.
Are aware of is a
Is that loud enough?
complex of vibrations. And we have been conditioned
What's up, Eddie?
to call them graduatingly good, bad, pleasant, painful.
What's up, Zahidi? How's everything?
Whereas, as a matter of fact, they are nothing but vibrations.
Tesla said if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration, and energy.
So you don't know that
It's very weird how like this isn't an idea that's clung on to more nowadays because like everything's resonating. So like to know this fact and not try to do things with it is very weird to me. Oh, what's up, Ashley? Still, you're not sick enough to, skip my stream.
the sound is loud unless you know soft sounds. Or you don't know that it's soft unless you know loud. It is that comparison which gives us the feeling of the spectrum as being varied. Otherwise, we wouldn't know. For example,
This is the idea of why we're unhappy, why bad things happen. Because if good things happened, you wouldn't appreciate them. If you only experienced everything positive, then there would be no room for appreciation. You have no basis to judge it off of because you've never experienced anything in the inverse. And so many people see everything wrong going in their lives. And it's like, there's going to be a period when everything starts to go right. And whatever you're experiencing now, the upswing of that, the uptick of that is going to be beautiful. You never miss a Bino stream, you better not.
when you watch television, you are actually seeing a single moving point moving over the screen. But it goes so fast that you see it in all these different places having different values of light. But let us supposing there was someone whose retina was not retentive in this way. He would look at the screen and see the
I don't know why, but this like AI generated image is really, really doing a lot for this
moving point of light and say
part of
to
it.
human beings, I don't see what you see in this. Now, can we therefore get back not only to the situation where we see that the ego is a mere construct, but also where we see that all the values we put on the vibrations are arbitrary.
What he's saying is we assign them the value. the institutions that we hold so highly are only that highly esteemed because we hold them to be that. Think of the best example of this would probably be like, I don't know what religion you are, but think of another religion. You might have a lot of respect for people that believe in it, but you don't hold it as your universal truth. You don't hold it as the truth that dictates the universe versus how high you hold your religion. Think of the other ideals in our lives. This is what we're doing with the same things. This is what we're doing with our idea that, you know what, I'll never be successful, I'll never be this, I'll never be that. Like all of your beliefs are arbitrary and they are usually given to you by the world and not given to you by yourself, which is quite unfortunate.
And that we get to a position where we see the vibrations simply as the vibrations. And we would say then, well, surely all this is nonsense, which is correct. The universe, I mean, is a kind of ba-doo-dee-da, 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 going on in this fantastic way. This is why music can be used as a meditative technique. Because a lot of music is nonsense.
If Alan Watts only knew what music was nowadays,
It doesn't mean anything.
he would listen to Cardi B and be like, this is pure
But it
art.
can be very interesting. So can you get back again to recollecting from childhood your pleasure in events that from your present point of view you would call entirely meaningless? That you could listen to a sound like twanging metal and it goes boing, 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 and that's fascinating. And that's all it is. Now, if you can really get with boing, you can see the whole universe in boing.
Every time he says it, it gets funnier.
Really. Because every vibration that's possible implies all the others. And so, likewise, with a candle flame, with a reflection, with grain in wood, anything can, from this child point of view, be completely fascinating. Not because it means anything, but just for what it is that it is shaped so. And why on earth do people...
This is something that we don't tend to focus on. We tend to get so wrapped up in our lives that we can't smell the roses. I mean, have you ever walked around your neighborhood and really paid attention? And I'm not just talking about like looking at the numbers of the houses. I'm talking about like the divots in the hills and the trees and the road and like trying to observe everything. And this is somewhere you've lived your entire life, but at the same time, you haven't noticed that this one tree grows in this angle. You haven't noticed the types of trees, the types of, you know what I mean? It's like we take so many things for granted and there's so much information right in front of us. And it's all about learning to simplify our lives and appreciate these little things, appreciate the magic that is the world. I mean, you can't look at a sunset, really look at a sunset, really just watch the sun go down and not appreciate the beauty of everything. It's very weird to me how anyone can be upset while they do that. I don't know.
people challenge disaster the way they do, doing all sorts of wildly adventurous things, so on. And it's only if you look very carefully at a vibration that you can see this point. That's why meditative exercises often involve a repetition process.
I never do that. Um, it's something that is very like if you use a mantra, it clears your mind very easy because it makes you fixate on nonsense. Like a lot of the phrases, they don't mean anything for the sake of not meaning anything. Once you say a word that you associate an image with, it will begin to spiral into more ideas. Whereas if you just say complete nonsense, it will help you clear your mind faster. But um, I think you can just meditate with that.
Om, or saying a phrase, or doing an act like a mudra, over and over and over again. After a while, it becomes meaningless. You can say your own name like the Sufis do, and go on and on and on and on and on, and finally, it doesn't mean anything at all.
There's a
It's
weird
just a
one.
noise.
Actually, I'm not going to say it.
But it isn't
I
just
don't
a
want anyone
noise.
trying it because it
The
can.
attitude of saying that something is just a noise.
It's definitely something that would be dangerous to do if you're not screwed on completely. I won't tell you guys it, but
Or just a wiggle is an adult attitude. No wiggle to the child is just a wiggle. To the child, the elemental thing going on is blah. You know, I mean, it's just fantastic. Now, do you see why this is what mystics call ineffable? That is to say, you can't really talk about it. When I try to explain what I mean by digging a sound,
so what he's talking about right now is something very interesting. It's the idea that in nothing there's something. The idea that when you search for meaning, you miss the point. It's the paradox of when your mind is full of nothing, you can feel everything. It's that idea. It's basically just Taoism. It's something that it's very difficult to
I suddenly
explain, but
realized
it's
that I'm
the more ways you hear it said, the more it begins to click. Like the first time I heard about Taoism, I'm like, I don't know what this means, but the more you think about it, the more different analogies you hear, the more you kind of just begin to associate the idea with something. Um, it is unfortunately there's not a good definition, especially for someone that was raised in the Western world. I think we're forced into thinking certain ways that make it very contradictory to Taoism. But the more you can begin to accept at least the philosophy of it, the happier you can be.
not really saying anything. And yet there are states of consciousness in which you can listen to sound and realize that that is the whole point of being alive. Just to go with this particular energy manifestation that is happening right at this moment. To be it. The whole world is the energy playing at doing all this, you see, like a kaleidoscope, jazzing. If you're going to do anything in the way of the illusory dance, let's live it up, let's really do it. And let's not take our
Is it me or is Alan Watts when he speaks, you're just like, wow. Um, I was trying to explain this yesterday. There's no force to it. It kind of just flows. It kind of just appears. I doubt he scripted anything. I bet you he did all of these things off the fly. Everything I've heard from him, he rarely repeats himself. He usually uses different examples and talks about different points.
ourselves so damn seriously that we have to be scrubbed all the time of any kind of
I've
ornamentation.
read I think two of his books. I really did like them, but I think his speeches are much better. So I would say that about Jordan Peterson as well. Um, but yeah.
But you see what all this is dependent on? All this is dependent upon being able to get back to the point where it's da 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 da. Now that's what comes in meditation. You are increasingly in a state of consciousness where the world is babbling.
Basically, what he was saying was when you take everything out of your head, that's when you're open to everything. Right now, you have a plan for the rest of your night. You have a plan for what you're going to do next. Whereas when you meditate, you're in the moment. When you meditate, you're only thinking about being in that state. And that's what he's emphasizing. In this state is where you find all the meaning, all of the purpose, everything that you could ever ask for is just waiting to be yours in that state.
Is achieved by letting things take their natural course. You cannot master the world by changing the natural way.
Well, no,
Lao
this is
Tzu.
too fast.
Our civilization is in a state of ongoing strivings, in which control seems to be the highest virtue. We don't have to look far to observe this. In the workplace, for example, employees are more and more controlled and supervised, especially now we have the technology to do so.
Dude, I had a job. This is easily the worst job I ever had. I had a job where they would track how long you're in the office for, and they had like very strict in the office policies, and like literally they would micromanage everything about you, and you had to be in the office for a minimum amount of hours, and like people were getting fired for not doing it, and it's like in what world is that going to inspire any sort of good work? In what world is that going to inspire any sort of creativity or any sort of passion or any sort of loyalty towards the company? It's like I get having rules and restrictions. I mean, if you want to have most people work in an orderly fashion, like you just need that because people, for the most part, are not willing to govern themselves. But at a certain point, man, like you're just gonna lose people. You're not gonna get better people either. Nobody wants to be subjected to something like that. Like nobody is willing to work for a company if given the choice that tracks when they're in the office, when they're leaving, when they're taking their lunch break. It's like I don't get it.
And governments put more effort into tracking their citizens, whether it's through camera supervision or the proposal of a so-called social credit system. Ironically, the latter is a Chinese invention that goes utterly against a philosophy that emerged from the same soil: Taoism. As opposed to a control-obsessed society,
It's
Taoism
you'll hear it called both Taoism and Taoism, or the Tao or the Tao. They're interchangeable. I really just think it's I can't remember which one it is, but one is an older way to say it and one's a newer way to say it. But I use them interchangeably, so
revolves around letting go and going with the flow. At first glance, the act of letting go may seem a form of weakness, but according to the Taoists, by a correct understanding of how the universe works, we can approach life more intelligently, more efficiently, and go with the flow, rather than swimming against it. Therefore, the power of letting go is a
the idea of letting go, it's not forcing things. It's you're worrying about something because you can do something about it right now. You know what I mean? Like you're taking action right now. You're not, being in fear about something that's going to happen 2 months into the future. It's always about like, what can I do now? And if I can't do anything, then just let it pass. Let it, move away. If you really look into the founder of Taoism, I think it was Lao Tzu. I think that's how you say it. Um, Basically, he was like a nomadic monk, and he would just roam like the valley and the hills, and he was basically like a poor beggar, but he was just happy, and he was in pure bliss, and he didn't need anything. And this is where a lot of the philosophy came from. It was very different from Buddhism. Is in Buddhism, you like to lock yourself away from the world. You like to go into a monastery and deprive yourself of things, whereas Taoism was you were in the world but didn't indulge in things. And Osho believed that was much more impressive. Like he one of his points was the reason why monks are celibate is because they fast for so long, so they have no sexual desire. The moment they start eating, the sexual desire comes back, and then it becomes impressive. But if you're not having sex because you don't want to, because you literally starve yourself to the point where you can't, is that very impressive, or is it just, you kind of just you took away your options? So It's a very, very interesting
a
idea.
form of strength that's based on sophistication rather than force.
Osho also believed that a natural stage of spiritual development was becoming celibate. At a certain point, all the energy that you focused onto that transcends and becomes higher levels of energy. Most people can't understand it too. I was reading something about Henry David Thoreau. If you don't know who Henry David Thoreau is, he wrote the book Walden, and then he went out to the woods and lived there for 2 years. And people were like speculating about his sexuality. I'm like, what a fucking modern day worldview. Because you know, think of how much stuff is sexually driven nowadays. Think of how many stuff like I mean, listen to any source of music. It's all just baseline level human desires. And, you know, for us to judge someone like Thoreau, who had a cathartic experience, who basically lived like a monk and lived how our ancestors used to live, like that's someone who doesn't need any more fulfillment. That's someone that doesn't need anything except for what he can give himself. And for us to judge that is just, it's one of the most moronic things I've ever heard. I don't, you know, it's the same thing as like Freud. This is one of the funniest stories about Freud. So he was one of the biggest proponents of projection, and he was basically saying that like when you have a dream, any phallic object, whether it's a cigar, whether it's an actual phallus, whether it's an eggplant, whatever it is, whatever is shaped like that, maybe the Washington Monument, whatever it is, it's repressed homosexuality. And his daughter was like, "Didn't you say you had a dream about a cigar?" And he said, "Honey, or my dear," whatever he said. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. It's just that story cracks me up every time because it's just like rules for thee and not for me. Um, Freud is just like when you look into him, you're just like this guy just basically projected all of his insecurities onto other people. I mean, when you look at psychosexual theory, it's really very obvious that there was some unresolved issues there. But anyway,
The Tao Te Ching, the main Taoist scripture, was written by a mysterious sage named Lao Tzu. There are countless ways in which we can interpret this text. One way is to see it as a guide for a ruler. What characterizes the passages of the Tao Te Ching regarding governance is that Lao Tzu puts
some people think it's for government, but Taoism's not. It would never. Taoism doesn't believe in government. It believes in being in the world, but not of the world. Not not becoming part of any system. It is basically like take Emerson's self-reliance and make it a more mystical um, text, a more mystical work. That's Taoism.
emphasis on ruling by not ruling, as he compared governing a country with frying a small fish. Too much poking spoils the meat. He argued that when a ruler tightens his grip on the people, all kinds of negative side effects will occur. We see that people become distrustful towards one another when the government is too patronizing, and when it's too intrusive, people become rebellious. But when a leader is unobtrusive and acts with integrity, then people will become whole, as they are granted the space to naturally evolve. It's clear that Lao Tzu favors a passive form of governance, which doesn't just apply to ruling a state, but also to the governance of ourselves. Because
This is something that theoretically could work, but it could never work nowadays because nobody cultivates themselves. Say what you want about the government, we get the government we deserve. Um, you know what I mean? Time and time again, we'll elect rulers that say good things but don't actually carry them through. And you know, had we eventually like just stopped falling for this nonsense, if we all just said we're not voting, we'll do something else, we'll figure something else out, we'll create stronger communities that don't rely on, you know what I mean? It's like the government works for the people and the government's elected by the people. So like say what you want about the government, but it's a reflection of ourselves. It's a reflection of our society. Like the reason why our government is, becoming more and more authoritarian. I don't know why I can't say that word, is because we're allowing it to. is because people are taking less and less responsibility for their own lives. Why do you think the welfare state is growing? It's because people are more willing to rely on handouts than they are willing to get things off the sweat of their own brow. And I'm vastly oversimplifying the issue. There's obviously people who really need it and who really rely on it, but um, it's like anything. The more you give benefits to people, the more people are going to take advantage of it, and it's we truly do get the systems we deserve. If you have anything wrong, like if you have anything against any of these institutions, any of these systems, like you have to start evaluating yourself and judge yourself first because that's the only way we make change. The only way we make change is you change yourself and you start changing other people. You start inspiring other people. And it's through educating ourselves and, you know, inspiring others to educate themselves as well that we begin to take ourselves out of this state. We begin to take ourselves out of, whatever invisible chains we have, whether you think it's, I don't know. I'm talking about a bunch of different topics right now and bunch of different aspects. But yeah, if you don't think the government's fair, then just understand it's a reflection of what we have devolved to. I mean, even the school system, look how poorly educated people are in America. I heard someone say yesterday it would make a lot of sense that the average reading level in America is third grade. And think how many people read after high school? How many people even read in high school? How many people even, you know, bothered to learn anything? It's very, very frustrating that we are going to sit here and complain and not even do the work on them ourselves. Don't complain about the world until you do the work on yourself. Yeah.
Letting things go is the key to let nature do the work, which applies to any level. In this video, I would like to show you several ways in which Taoism shows us the power of letting go. The first one is the art of non-doing. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei can be explained as effortless action, or the so-called
Inspired action. Effortless action is just, I think people are going to get mixed up. What this idea is doing things when necessary. Thinking when you're asked a question. When you feel like doing something, then doing it. If you feel like going fishing, you go fishing. But if you don't want to go fishing and people are telling you to, you don't do it. It's that idea. It's doing things because you want to, doing things because you're inspired to, or doing things because the necessity is right in front of you. It's not because of what other people are telling you to do. It's not because you believe this is best for you. It's because you are going to love and enjoy every moment of it.
flow state, but also as non-doing, or knowing when to act and when not to. When we take a critical look at ourselves, we see that the need for control prevails in many areas of life. We feel the need to control our pets, our children, our gardens, our video games, in some cases our partners, and first and foremost, our future. Now, control isn't always a bad thing.
The more you try to cling on to control, the more you try to control things, the more they are going to rebel. This is a rule with anything, and the moment you begin to accept it, the moment you begin to give other people freedom, other people that you deal with freedom in your life, the more they're going to want to listen to you, the more they're going to want to, you know, please you. And it's a very weird idea. And this is something I think a lot of relationships get wrong. A lot of relationships want to restrict people. They're like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, dude, if someone really cares about me, they're not going to do something I don't want. And if they're going to do something I don't want, then maybe I need to find someone else. Maybe I need to find someone who actually respects my boundaries, actually respects what I do and don't like, the behavior I view as disrespectful versus the behavior I think is, you know, by all means go do it. You know what I mean? It's very weird to me.
In order to survive, we need to exert our influence on the environment to some extent. Especially self-control can lead us in a positive direction. Without control, human civilization would probably never have occurred. But too much of it doesn't get us anywhere. It seems that we systematically underrate the natural influences that lie at the basis of our daily lives. We can't control everything, and many things happen when we stop controlling them. Let's take a tree for example.
It's not just nature. Everyone dumbs down this point by saying it's a return to nature, it's a return to living a natural life. It's not that. It's living about who you were intended to be, living within your nature, living within your characteristics, your traits, the things that make you happy. Sure, going out and living in the woods is going to make you simplify your life. It'll make you, appreciate the little things, but it's not just that. It's the aspect of the individual. And we need to stress this because everyone that reads Walden goes, yeah, this is nice, but what do I take away from this? Everyone that reads Emerson is like, yeah, this is cool and all, but like, I don't know what to do with this. It's about integrating your personality. It's about integrating your traits that you haven't been integrating previously. And when you return to this natural state, when you return to who you really are, this is where you have ultimate happiness.
Example, we can plant it, we can water it, we can add some fertilizer and make sure it's exposed to enough sunlight. But any more intervention would only damage the process because we interrupt nature.
I'm literally so exhausted right now. I'm gonna end this. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'm literally like dying. Um, I got stuff I gotta do too before I can go to bed. So, I'm gonna stream again tomorrow. Um, hopefully for longer. But yeah, thank you